des autres nations que jadis elle a combattu.
This is a guy who also wants to replace every civil servant, every single one. Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill one who he believes to be a threat to him.
What?
I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We gotta lock him up. Politically lock him up.
Whether a president has absolute immunity. And then there's a second question here, which is whether anything that Donald Trump is accused of would actually constitute a president.
Yo, what's up, everybody? I'm your host, Mr. Dr. Menace, and we're going to take a look today at Kamala failing another layup interview. She just can't seem to get her words out. She cannot answer simple questions. Everything she does is an L. We're supposed to have this person be in control of the entire country, making decisions on our behalf. Let's get into this.
Donald Trump. Those are the candidates on the ballot.
There's only
of course. Two choices.
Yes.
And I know that Joe Biden is not on the ballot. I understand that. But the reason that you are at the top of the ticket is because he dropped out of this race. And so I want to ask you, and it was largely because of that debate performance back in June. You defended him in the days before and in the days after as you were campaigning for another 4 years for President Biden. Can you say that you were honest with the American people about what you saw in those moments with President Biden as you were with him again and again, repeatedly in that time?
Of course. Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished, experienced, and capable in every way that anyone would want if they're president.
You never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him?
It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely.
But that's the reason why you're here, and he's not running for the top of the ticket.
Yeah, where you guys rigged your primary, remember? Everyone voted for Joe Biden, 18 million votes. We've exposed that he's cognitively impaired. Now we got to get rid of this guy. Let's panic now. Oh gosh, what do? Let's install the most disliked vice president in history.
Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why.
What do you think?
I am running for president of the United States. Joe Biden is not.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And my presidency will be about bringing a new generation of leadership to America that is focused on the work that we need to do to invest in the ambitions and aspirations of the American people.
It's a jaw dropper, to say the least. So to set the stage here, let me just explain what these numbers mean. ICE has something called a non-detained docket. Essentially what that is it means migrants who were encountered by DHS but are no longer in federal custody. So who's on this non-detained docket? It's illegal immigrants who were caught and released at the border, released with the court date years away. They're in immigration proceedings, combined with illegal immigrants who have already been ordered deported from the country by a judge but are still here roaming the country. So keep that in mind, this non-detained docket. According to a letter that the acting director of ICE just sent to Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez, on ICE's non-detained docket, they're currently tracking 425,000 non-citizens who have been convicted of a crime. Of that number, over 13,000 non-citizens have convictions for homicide and are on the non-detained docket, meaning they're roaming the country right now. On top of that, there are another 15,811 non-citizens convicted of sexual assault who are roaming the country right now on ICE's non-detained docket.
It's a judgment question. That's why I ask. Can the American people trust you in these moments, even when it's maybe uncomfortable for Americans to level with Americans in that way? So that's why I ask. And it sounds like what you're saying is you feel like you never saw anything like that from President Biden.
I have worked with Joe Biden, hours and hours and hours over these 4 years, whether it be in the Situation Room or the Oval Office.
I didn't know MSNBC went full-blown MAGA. When did this happen? Yay! I must have missed that. So this above everything just shows that we cannot trust her judgment. She's been gaslighting the American people for the last 3 years. And remember, everyone was a conspiracy theorist when they said, if you believe that Joe Biden is mentally impaired,
What?
F you! Remember Morning Blowhard and Botox Queen? Remember they sat there and gaslit us all? Told us, F you! If you don't like Joe Biden, you think Joe Biden's not mentally impaired. Yeah, how did that work out? And then they took you off air the next day after the debate. How bad you gaslight the American people is so embarrassing.
Joe Biden is the one who was able to bring NATO together during a crisis where, for the first time in 70 years, Europe saw and has seen war. Joe Biden has done the work that has been about being a leader on what we have done to fix so much of what has been broken in terms of the economy because of Donald Trump's mismanagement.
I think I'm stronger than you.
Let me ask you about something that you said when you were running for president the last time around, back in 2019. At the time, you said that the elephant in the room was whether the country was ready for a woman and a woman of color to be president. So let me ask you, as you sit here today, do you think the country is ready now for a woman and a woman of color to be president?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You've been reluctant to lean into, to talk about the historic nature of your candidacy on the campaign trail. Why is that?
Well, I'm clearly a woman. I don't need to point that out to anyone.
Are you sure about that?
The point that most people really care about is, can you do the job? And do you have a plan to actually focus on them?
I hear you on
and that is why I spend the majority of my time listening and then addressing the concerns, the challenges, the dreams, the ambitions, and the aspirations of the American people.
Now, over 2,000 migrants are headed for the U.S.-Mexico border over fears they'll be denied entry under a second Trump presidency. And with those migrants making their way here, a new internal memo reportedly reveals Mexican cartels are giving members permission to, quote, shoot at U.S. Border Patrol agents.
They deserve.
I asked because to implement the agenda that you want to implement, you have to win first. You have to win the White House. And right now there is a big gender gap in this race. Fewer men support you right now than they did President Biden. Some of your allies have suggested there's sexism at play. I wonder, do you think there is sexism at play here?
Let me just tell you something. You've come to my events, and you will see there are men and women at those events.
Beta!
Do you not see sexism as a factor in this race at all?
I don't think of it that way. My challenge is the challenge of making sure I can talk with and listen to as many voters as possible and earn their vote. And I will never assume that anyone in our country should elect a leader based on their gender or their race.
What?
Well, a disturbing development on the border crisis. Wait until you hear this. The Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement confirms that more than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been caught at the border and then released into the United States.
She is so bad at this. So I'm going to break this down right now, why she's having such a problem with male voters. This is the most easiest way to explain this to everyone. When you're a woman and you somehow become into power because a man gives you that position, once you start telling us, you don't need to treat me any different than you would any other man, and men hear that and say, oh, okay, well, then I'm going to treat you just like I would any other man. And then when we start treating you just like we would any other man, you start freaking out and going, oh my God, I'm a woman. How dare you treat me like that? How dare you treat me like that? And all the men standing there are going, well, that's how we all treat each other. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean, how dare we? You told us to treat you like a man. Yeah. Yeah. That's what's going through men's heads. They don't want to vote for somebody that tells them, treat me just like you would anyone else. And then when you do, they melt down and start calling you a sexist, a misogynist. That whole shaming part of her campaign that lasted a week, that completely backfired.
Instead, that leader needs to earn the vote based on substance and what they will do to address challenges and to inspire people to know that their aspirations and their ambitions can and will be achieved through the opportunity to do that.
Of your beliefs, what you believe in. Let me ask you this question, very broadly speaking here.
Sure.
Do you believe that transgender Americans should have access to gender-affirming care in this country?
I believe we should follow the law. I mean, I think you're probably pointing to the fact that Donald Trump's campaign has spent tens of millions of dollars.
They're trying to define you on this.
Yes,
I'm asking you to define yourself, though. Just broadly speaking, what is your value? Do you believe they should have that access?
There's a young man in here.
I told her, excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
So when Democrats say we'll follow the law, that means we're going to change the law whenever we feel like it to suit our needs. Yeah! People are so fed up with this stuff, dude. You can get away with this stuff in California. In California, people are insane. They want to give puberty blockers, which are the same drugs they give to PDF files in jail to castrate them. Why do you think Europe banned all gender affirming care? It's completely banned over there.
Good job.
And yet we're still doing it. The most progressive places that have been trying this for years have all completely banned this gender affirming care. They completely stopped.
But let's also understand that Donald Trump is running tens of millions of dollars in ads to talk about two cases.
It's not about money. It's about sending a message.
We'll move on, but I don't know that I heard a clear answer from you on the issue of gender affirming care. It sounds like what you're saying is there should be something between trans Americans and their doctors.
There's a young man in here.
I told her, excuse me, it's ma'am.
It feels like that's a long way from we see you and we love you, which was your message to trans Americans in May. What do you want the LGBTQ plus community to know as they're looking for a full-throated backing from you for trans Americans?
I believe that all people should be treated with dignity and respect.
Another complete waste of time. Got nothing out of her. She's just another Democrat robot. They could take her out and put literally anyone in from the Democrat Party and it would not make a difference. It would be the same talking points, the same deflection, and the same projection. All in one, plus the gaslighting. So don't forget that. God, she's such a robot, man. I cannot answer a question. My mainframe will not allow me to. I'll spare you guys the rest of the interview. It's honestly, it's so hard to get through this, having to watch this more than once to edit this. So I hope you guys appreciate it. Share and then like. Those are the most important things if you did. If you didn't, leave me a negative comment because even that helps. All right. I hope everybody has a good day. I'll see you on the flip side.